In this video, we are talking all about Mercury retrograde and whether or not we can use Mercury retrograde as a spiritual excuse not to get stuff done in our business, what the impact of retrograde is, and the things to be mindful of during that period. Hello, it's Emma Holmes at Coaching Rockstars, and I am going to talk today with my brew. So grab yours if you need to. I'm going to talk today about Mercury retrograde and the impact of Mercury retrograde upon our business and upon the way we do business, on the things that happen within business. So a little clink, clink, clink of the old stirring. All done. And I have got a coconut latte today. So let's talk Mercury retrograde and the impact on your business. And actually, let's start off with WTF is Mercury retrograde. So here's the thing, right? The planets hurtle around in space all of the time. And as the moon cycle has a massive impact on everything here, so does the path of other amazing planets that are hanging out in our solar system. And when a planet retrogrades, it kind of appears to be going backwards in its orbit. It's not really changed direction. It's decided to kind of hokey-cokey the other way, but its visibility, it appears that it's done that. It's not really doing that, but it appears to be going off backwards. It appears to have naffed off in the opposite direction. Usually, Mercury takes about 3.5 weeks to go direct again. And I'm recording this video in pre-shadow of Mercury retrograde. So it's kind of like the build-up to Mercury retrograde. And I wanted just to kind of get down into what it's all about. And during the time of retrograde, Mercury disrupts. And those disruptions can be felt in the areas that Mercury rules, which are levels of communication, clarity of thought, travelling plans, technology, levels of truth and perception. And it can kind of leave a hell of a storm in its wake. So what does it actually mean to you? What are the actual implications of Mercury? So communication and misunderstandings may be extremely rife. So during this period, it's really important that you remember to kind of check out your communications and make sure that you're saying what you actually mean and that you are being clear in your intentions. So if you're talking to somebody, if you're getting involved in any negotiations or anything that has a lasting impact, I'm not asking you to filter yourself. You don't have to go and grab a filter and filter everything through. You know, you can still be yourself. You can still come along and be exactly who you are, but just make sure that, you know, you're happy with what goes out there, because people might get the wrong end of the stick when it comes to what has been said, what has been inferred, what has been implied through communications. And I know that this is kind of rife anyway now, because so often we type an email, send, or we respond to a message, send, and we sometimes don't think about how that actually reads. And it might just be that we're busy, it might just be that we're, you know, quick respond before we forget, but we've got to please make sure that we do, you know, be kind, and that we do use our manners, and that we are, you know, being ourselves within our communication all of the time, not just in retrograde. It's just, you know, one of those kind of extra vigilance during retrograde. Sometimes emails can go off into cyberspace and never reach their recipient. So, you know, it's not unusual to lose letters, correspondence, emails during this period. So don't think people are ignoring you. And again, it's the same generally in business. All of these rules for retrograde, all of these things to be mindful in retrograde, are really great things for you to think about in business generally, because they're kind of good practice anyway. So, you know, make sure that you don't get the wrong end of the stick and think that people are ignoring you. You know, people are busy, and if they don't immediately reply to your Facebook message, if they don't immediately reply to your email, it's not because they think that you stink. There's sometimes a reason behind that, in that they might not have received it. or they might be busy, or there might be other things going on. You just don't know. The other thing through retrograde is technology. Technology might have an absolute field day with you during retrograde, and it might result in techie meltdowns, systems crashing, losing stuff that you've been working on, forgetting to save things. And I know that sometimes when I talk about retrograde to my husband in the past, he's come home and he's gone, oh, all the televisions are down in the fire station, or the systems have gone down in the fire station, blah, 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 blah. And I go, it's Mercury retrograde. But again, it's at any point in your business that you could lose systems, that things could crash, things could go down, you could lose your internet. All of these things are things that can happen every day in business. Yes, they're more prevalent during retrograde. Yes, we need to be more mindful of them during retrograde, but there's stuff that can happen all of the time. So it's great to have backup systems. Make sure that you're saving your stuff and you're putting it up in the cloud. I found out the bloody hard way recently when I was writing my book, and I lost thousands and thousands and thousands of words because I had just deleted it off the system. And it was my own doing, and it was me just being ridiculous. But now, because of that, I have backup systems. So when I've been working on my book, I send a copy automatically to my editor. I save it into the cloud. I make sure that, if my system crashed, the most important work that I do is saved into the cloud, that I can access it from other machines, that I do have a bit of a backup plan if my internet goes down. So, it is good practice anyway in business, but it's also great practice to have in place during periods like retrograde. So what can you do during retrograde to kind of look after yourself and protect yourself a little bit? So I've read stacks of advice about how you shouldn't be signing contracts or anything legal during retrograde, and don't even think about making plans to move house. I did move house and I did sign contracts during retrograde, and it was totally fine. And I think that what is important is that you use the period of retrograde just to be more mindful of the decisions that you're making, the communications that you're entering into, how that might come about in your world. This isn't exclusively for periods of retrograde. This is, for life, not just for retrograde. So it doesn't mean, retrograde does not mean that your business and your work needs to grind to a halt. This isn't a spiritual excuse to stop doing any work. This is about, again, just being more mindful. And it feels like everything, has gone completely mad sometimes during retrograde, and it feels like stuff's all over the place, and it feels like, you really want to step away before you get washed away in a tide of chaos. But actually, when you look at it practically, and when you make sure that you are keeping your eyes open and you are being mindful of these things, and like I say, it's good practice all of the time, but particularly during retrograde period. Back up your systems. So again, good practice anyway. Make sure that you're sending things up into the cloud. Make sure that you're looking after your intellectual property, your work. Remember that when you're doing work, when you're working on your business, all of the stuff that you're doing are assets. They're all assets to your business, and you wouldn't just leave your computer lying around in the street and think that would be okay. So just don't leave your business assets lying about on your hard drive and hope that it'll be okay. Most of the time it probably will be, but it's great to make sure that you're backing things up. So you can have a backup on your website. So if you've got a WordPress website, there's a free WordPress plugin that backs up WordPress into Dropbox. For other documents and images, I send them to the cloud. I send them to systems like Google Drive or Dropbox. I keep lots of my videos in my client management system, and also in YouTube, so that whatever happens to the hard drive of my computer, I'm okay. Double check travel arrangements. So if you need tickets for your travel plans, make sure you've got them all. Make sure you've got them somewhere safe, and back up your safe place. How often have we put stuff in a safe place to come back and go, where was that safe place again? I put a little note in my phone. So pop a little note in your phone to tell you exactly where you have deemed the safe place on this occasion, so that you can find out where it actually is. And if you're traveling, give yourself plenty of time. So again, normal advice, normal advice for doing these things, but make sure that you're increasingly aware during retrogrades. Next one is don't jump to conclusions. So again, it's another one that's good practice all of the time. Okay, don't read negativity into things. Don't jump in to decide what people mean in their written communications. Don't always take things at face value. We all know that we do those replies and that we throw them out there and then we think, ugh. So, what I often do is I'll type the reply and then I'll go back and self-edit to make sure that, that I'm putting in the pleasantries and that I'm being kind and that it's not just do this, send, because that's just, it can be taken the wrong way really easily. If you're waiting for replies for stuff, then check that people have received that request for whatever it is that you're waiting for before you first, before you head off straight into being a sulky bum that they haven't replied for you. Check stuff. So if you're signing contracts, if you're making higher value purchases, just be mindful. This potentially isn't the time for making impulse or rash decisions. But, if there are decisions to be made, if there are things that you want to purchase, if there are things that you want to do, then just make sure that you're checking stuff. Expect hiccups and don't get stressed out. So, these things are going to happen, but the last thing that you want to do is head off straight away into panic mode. Lots and lots of people go straight into, oh my gosh, everything's so bad, everything's... Calm down, okay? You putting negative energy into whatever the circumstances are that have caused you to react in that way is literally just putting logs on the fire. And you're not going to feel any better by getting stressed out about it. And it's not going to solve the situation any quicker by you getting stressed out about it. Take the action that you need to take, but don't inject it with stacks of negative energy. So what is retrograde epic for? So retrograde isn't all bad, and I got to a point where I'd kind of demonized retrograde a little bit, and it had become a bit of a thing, and it had become a little bit of an excuse at times, and it'd become kind of that default fallback of, oh well, it's retrograde and it's bound to happen. But actually, it doesn't need to be an excuse. It is a great time for reflection. It is a great time to get your shit together. It is a fab time to make sure that your finances are all in order. It's a fab time for letting go of stuff, and it's a fab time for taking stock. It's also a great time to implement, some great systems in your business. So not only, kind of backup systems that will keep you from losing data and from losing your assets, but also systems for if the internet's down, systems for if your computer breaks, systems for getting help and support in your business if you need it. It's a great time for, really getting your stuff together. It's a great time for slowing down as well. It's a great opportunity to have a less pushy couple of weeks. Not using it as an excuse not to do anything, okay? This isn't a spiritual excuse. This is allowing you just an opportunity to take a step back and to do that reflection, to do that planning, to get those systems in place. Great time for that sort of stuff. And it's actually a really awesome time for finishing things. So it's a really awesome time to get to the end of things. So if you are naturally inclined to leave things half finished, if you're naturally inclined to, really jump on a job and get on with it and get started, but actually never see the end of it, then retrograde period is a perfect time to get it together. So remember, the period of retrograde, the period pre-retrograde is the pre-shadow, which we're in right now as I record this video, and the disruption might actually start earlier than the dates that people put down as being Mercury retrograde dates. Remember, you don't need retrograde to stop you in your tracks. It doesn't mean that your business needs to grind to a halt, and it isn't to be feared. Just know that it's a little heads up about the likely impact, and that it's okay, to have that as being something that you're mindful of, so that as you move forward, you can bring together some systems that will really support you in your business generally, and not just during retrograde period. These are things for life rather than just for the retrograde period. So just give yourself that opportunity to have the heads up, be aware of those periods, stick them in your diary and use them to your advantage rather than as an excuse. I will speak to you again really soon.